I guess we could start with introductions. Do we need to do that? We all know one another. Can we skip that?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, who wants to go first? I'm not in charge of anything.
Yeah.
It's you. All right,
Okay.
so we have a couple of MOUs.
Well, actually, Madam Chair, if I could call the school board meeting to order at this time. I see that we have Dr. Hubbard, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Kelly, Dr. Rollins-Fells, Mrs. Sears, and the school board does have a quorum at this time.
Discussion of the MOU.
All right. Actually, before we proceed, I think that we do need to go ahead and have a formal approval of the agenda, if I'm not out of order, as presented. Madam Chair, if you will call the roll for the approval of the agenda for this joint meeting from the school board.
All in favor of the revised?
Not revised. I'm gonna go with the memo that we've got, our agenda that we have. I make a motion, we adopt the memo, the agenda that was presented to us by our staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Call for the vote, Madam Chair. Call for the vote. We just did.
We just did.
I want it individually.
Okay,
Mr. Sealer,
aye.
Mr. Thomas,
I vote aye.
Ms. Forehand.
Aye.
Ms. Black,
Aye.
Mr. Underwood,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Now we can go on to agenda item number 1. Okay, actually, before we proceed, for our agenda for this meeting, at this time, we'll ask for a vote to approve the school board agenda.
With all due respect, it's not your meeting.
And if it was a joint meeting.
No, it's not. No, we have agenda that we're going to discuss. And that's the agenda that we're going to discuss.
Point of
We have two
order.
items.
They also
You
have.
can do it
Point
your
of
way.
order, Mr. Underwood. I'm going to
You won't
turn
be
to
here.
our clerk of our board and ask for her to clarify that this is indeed a joint meeting and both parties have to post and advertise. And we have proposed 4 agenda items, of which 2 are listed on your agenda. And we would like to have discussion as to whether both boards would be open to entertaining the 2 additional items be added. Would you like to review the agenda items that we would like to have discussion over?
Absolutely.
Mr. Fortune?
Yes. So in addition to the 2 agenda items that are overlapping, we are requesting discussion about the Board of Supervisors update on county facility studies that actually included schools and school board, as well as a discussion of the FY27 operations and budget.
We understand the budget may not be something we can get to today, and that may require an additional meeting, but we did not want to overlook the opportunity. The first 2 are the same as yours, just in an opposite order. We put our most time-sensitive topic first, which is, of course, reversion fund, so we can proceed with what needs to be done at Lewis and Clark, and then the MOU. We understand that you have that in reverse order. The third item that we have noted, and you have copies of this, it's actually artifact 14 that's in the very back of your red folder. You'll see the artifacts are numbered. So we have your copy and our copy. We have item C as the BOS update on county facility studies, inclusion of schools and school boards. This was adopted in December, your December meeting. Schools were not part of that RFP process. We also haven't been contacted in relation to our inclusions. We really are looking for an update so we can be in alignment with you, talk about redundancy of efforts and spending of money where funds have already been spent on our facility and demographic study, etc. And then, of course, it is budget season, so if time permits, covering the FY27 operational budget. We at least have the brochure for you to have this evening if you would like that. And some of you were at our meeting last night, so you actually had some insight associated with those items.
So you want to add 2 things that we haven't seen yet to the agenda and also update on the space study and reversion funds? Is that correct?
Yes, we definitely, once again, would like to have discussion once again about the county's facility studies that did include the schools that we're not a part of.
Okay, we don't have that. That's an easy one not to even vote on. Correct?
What I think the
We
the
just
issue
need
is
it.
they want to tell us that we should use their study and not do our own. And we agreed as a board to do our own study. So that's what we said we would do. We've already bought the contract out to have that done. So I said, let's move on with the agenda as we have it. We have items 1 and 2 to discuss. You can vote and add what they so choose.
Actually, in reality, we just want to simply understand what our level of involvement is in your facility study. If you choose to
We don't
spend
know yet.
additional money,
We
Then
don't-
that
we don't
is
know what their
certainly your
involvement is.
choice.
We're going to, Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Haywood.
We're about to contract, Mr. Cullen, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's two things. Can I do it?
Yes,
We're doing a facility study on all county facilities, and we have a contract with PMA Architecture to do that. We brought to the board a proposal to hire an architectural firm to do the design for the community building in Dawn at Low Massey Park. That's where the board then added on. They wanted that architect to be able to do design work and stuff on Bowling Green and Madison, and I think the middle school. And that got added in, and the board added $600,000. We have not hired that firm yet. We've gone through the process, but we do not have, Joe would probably correct me, but I don't think we've gotten the contract documents back for the review by legal. So nothing has started with that. And then so our first priority is going to be with that is to do a task contract to design the building at Low Massey Park. The school
Yeah.
part, until we would have an MOU, I don't see us designing or the board authorizing us to design anything.
correct.
So it's not really a needs study at the schools, it's
Right.
more as design stuff for that architecture firm.
Thank you.
There is this confusion because we do have
Right.
another firm doing space needs for all of the county buildings and courts and everything, but not schools.
Right.
We weren't doing that. So
Thank you.
I think that's the clarity. Before, I would think the board would authorize us to design anything. We'd have to come to agreement that we're doing it with
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. All right, so, Bob, yes.
Mr.
Dr.
Chair,
Owens,
having said that, I move for the approval of the agenda with the 2 items from the county and if time, the budget brochure presentation.
Second.
It's been moving properly second that we adopt the agenda items as listed on the county's documentation, and if time permits, further discussion of the operations budget. Yes.
Just so I'm understanding what's going on here. So you're saying we have 2 agendas that we're going to be operating on? 2 separate agendas?
We proposed our agenda. I had contacted and communicated with Mr. Cully prior to their publication of the agenda. I submitted our agenda topics, which are as documented on our published agenda. And when their published agenda came out at 5 o'clock, it omitted the 2 that we had requested. So we carried forward today, documenting the fact that we had 4 requests, of which only 2 were added to the agenda. It was my understanding that Mr. Cully would be communicating with his board to discuss those items. Whether or not that occurred, he can confirm. But we wanted to make sure we have on record that we actually had requested 4 agenda items.
All those in favor, please make the big number saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Well, we know we're not going to discuss this, the.
So the agenda's been approved.
It's already done. And the other topics you wanted to add?
Yes, if there's time to discussion regarding FY26 operations, if time permits.
I doubt there's going to be time since we have upcoming meeting, but if we do, we
Okay.
will.
Nancy, we got an agenda, so let's go ahead and do number 1.
All right, so next thing on our agenda is to discuss the MOU presented. There's a copy from Board of Supervisors and concerning the construction and the addition of the rooms to Bowling Green. Are there any updates, Mr. Cullen, on that?
No, It was sent out with the original MOU that was sent to the school board, and then the school board's response, and then all that's been handled by legal, but basically it's two different MOUs that are not remotely in agreement, so there is no memorandum of understanding that could be documented, put together by legal. And that's what this meeting's for, to talk out the issues related to that.
And, Madam Chair,
Yes.
part of it, just to make sure we're all at least on the same plane, at our December Board of Supervisors meeting, during open discussion, I think the Board of Supervisors, well, not I think, I know the Board of Supervisors unanimously said that we would like to go ahead and add on to Bowling Green at no cost to the school budget at all, paid for by what we had in the unencumbered balance. The Board of Supervisors would also put the new school in our CIP, which I believe we've done. And to follow up with that, I think there's been a survey for the Bowling Green district, and 97% or 180 people said they think we should move forward with the board adding on to Bowling Green. I think we should probably start with, is that something we want to do? Is that not something we want to do? And then go from there.
I think it's a logical thing to do. But I will certainly open this up for comment and discussion before we even get to the MOU, because we do need to make sure we are all united on doing this addition, including the school board, of course. So, any other discussion before we move forward and ask for a show of hands or a vote on who's in favor of adding on to Bowling Green? Any discussion over the school board?
Yes, so, we do appreciate the county's offer to pay for any type of addition to Bowling Green Elementary. I think we're all in agreement that, for example, the addition of a gymnasium at Bowling Green Elementary School is something that I think we all have consensus around. However, despite the fact that there's a understanding or an agreement that additions to Bowling Green Elementary would be funded by the county, the school board still has the legal responsibility to ensure that the educational adequacy of that building is to the point where it needs to be legally.
Can you define that for me so I can understand what you mean by that?
Sure. So, as an example, Bowling Green Elementary is currently at a capacity of approximately 800 and some odd students, correct? We know that Bowling Green Elementary has been deemed as needs intensive supports. There's a concern that if the elementary school is expanded to a number that's far above what is educationally sound based on the research, that our ability to bring Bowling Green Elementary to where it needs to be will be severely impacted, as an example.
Did you, can I ask a question? I mean, I hope you don't mind if I go along, but just to make sure I understand, did you not add trailers to Bowling Green, which increased the capacity?
The trailers are added to handle the current capacity. We're talking about adding above and beyond where we are at this point in time.
But if we
As a
built,
concern.
if we built 4 classrooms for you, that could take the place of the trailers.
6.
4 to 6, whatever that number is. But I'm not sure I understand. You don't want to have capacity increase, but you put trailers out there to increase capacity.
Yeah.
So how does this work? This is a board to board discussion. So I want you to explain to me how you think that works.
Well, once again, like I said, and it has always been the intent for the trails to be a short-term solution to a problem. The addition of an elementary school, for example, would allay the concern that we currently have that Bowling Green is over capacity at this particular point in time in the future. So adding additional capacity to Bowling Green Elementary for a long-term approach isn't on par with the research that I and our colleagues are suggesting.
Can
And again,
you share that research?
we,
Can you send that to us?
Absolutely.
Because.
but wait a
I'm
second, Reggie,
sorry, I'm sorry.
because we agree that we're gonna build, we want to build a new school. The Board of Supervisors said in December, and they just said right now, without any, objection, we want to build a new school.
Silence isn't consent.
Silence isn't consent, but I will ask you again if you consent, and you consented before. But we can't build a new school for 3 years. How do we, if we start today, we couldn't build a new school for 3 years. How do we get to where you want to be in 3 years from now? That's the question. And
Yeah, and
this expansion would help. And even if you think it's going to add more students, if it doesn't, you could have smaller class sizes because you have more space. It just seemed logical. And if I'm wrong, let me know or explain to me why that's wrong. Because you got trailers and you're asking for more trailers. But if we did this expansion, you could use those trailers at the new site. So
Can I request to our school board that I interject and respond to a few of those items that
Sure.
Mr. Thomas has shared? So you are looking potentially for reasons why the school board may or may not be supportive of the classroom expansion. And so I as you were talking, was listening.
well,
and
no, that's not what
processing
that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for why you don't want real classes, but you wanted trailers.
Sure.
Those are both expansions,
Well, I'm
right?
going to answer the first part.
But I mean,
and
we
then I'll
agree those
answer
are
the
both
second
expansions,
part.
right? We
One
agree
is
those
a
are both
temporary
expansions.
bridge solution to a new elementary school. Okay. So achievement within that building, high level of at-promise students, an identification of needs intensive support, over 850 students currently housed. Expansion of 4 to 6 classrooms is anywhere from 100 to 150 new students potentially. This building is currently located in the Mattapani Magisterial District. It serves 4 magisterial districts. It services Port Royal, Mattapani, Reedy Church, and Bowling Green residents and students. It is the largest geographically, requiring the longest bus routes. You create additional classrooms and you redistrict students or families in order to address overcapacity at Lewis and Clark, as well as capacity issues at Madison, and you create even greater bus routes with longer lengths because you're expanding the number of students that are housed within that building. You also are not ultimately, by doing this multi-million-dollar expansion, resolving the capacity issues in the other 2 locations. With the fact that we have not begun this project also means that we still have approximately 2 to 3 years to complete it. And that indeed is why I, Sarah Calveric, do not believe that this aligns with the facility study and demographic pattern results of the study, that we want to work together to come up with a solution that's reasonable, feasible, and cost effective. The gym is an equity issue. I think we can all agree the gym is an equity issue. Every other building in our division has a gym attached. We also know Parks and Rec is growing. Pickleball has exploded. We understand you need the gym here at the community center back. So having that gymnasium be an equity celebration, 100%. But additional classrooms is not a smart economic development for the reasons I've just indicated. And those are the notes that I was making while I was sitting here. It's not something I had written down. Those are just the facts that resonate with me.
Reggie was gonna go next, so.
Who thinks?
No, I guess my question is, in reading your MOU, it doesn't appear like, from my perspective, and I'm with you on wanting a new school. I promise you, I've come up that several times. I want you guys to have a new school, and I prefer an elementary school. And I may differ.
We all want it.
We all want a new school.
No,
Okay, that's
Not
fine.
in that your state.
Okay, all right, well, I'm not gonna speak for the board. All right, but, I would like a new elementary school somewhere in the county to alleviate pressure off Lewis and Clark. I'm with you on that. I would like a new school. Whether the other board members of the Board of Supervisors agree with that, that's for them to publicly state. However, I do agree with my colleagues on the fact that I believe that the Board of Supervisors, and I don't understand why, since we're on the same team, why it would be, we have the expertise on building these things. So if we come together and say, whatever school that we agree to build, when we come to that agreement, why the Board of Supervisors can't be in charge of that. And I brought today Mr. Whiteman. I mean, if we don't mind having him speak about, he was in charge of the Lewis and Clark. He was there when Lewis and Clark was expanded. He was there when Bowling Green was added on to, or earlier. He was there when the high school project happened, and he was there when Madison Elementary was also expanded. And I would like to give him some time to talk about some of the issues that we faced as a county. If that's
Is that all right?
Yes, the problems we had, starting with Lewis and Clark, is we had no construction manager, clerk of the works, we'll call it. And we ended up multiple times having to do RFIs, review shop drawings, which delayed construction on all of them. For some of those, someone from my office oversaw that, which was really kind of hard because they were doing inspections and trying to oversee the construction. So 3 years ago, the board, I came forward and we created the construction manager, and we hired David Napier, who's done a fantastic job. If you look around all the county parks, the fire stations, to me, the county facilities are county facilities, and we hired this man and we're paying him good money to be our construction manager. So whether it's a school or whether it's a firehouse, that's the guy we decided 3 years ago that would oversee the construction of any county facilities. So he has the expertise. He's on site. He can avoid delays. He can check technical specs to make sure that what we're putting in the ground and what we're bringing up is right, and can see it through a certificate of occupancy. So I'm not quite sure why we would build a school and hire somebody when we already had that person on staff.
Mr. Whiteman, can you speak to, can you speak to, in the I mentioned earlier, some of the schools that you had talked about, some of the issues that we had with that, as far as expansions and building?
Well, especially at Lewis and Clark, we had to take things apart and put them back together again, because at that school, we had absolutely no clerk of works or construction manager. There was somebody from the architect who was overseeing it, but that's kind of like the fox in the hen house. If they're doing the design, and then when I went to do the final inspection, so much was missed in the separated assemblies because you only allowed X amount of square footage. We had holes everywhere. Bowling Green, we sat around for months on the floor, coming into the foyer there. And that job was done by Dave McConnell, who was a friend of, I forget the superintendent at the time, but had no construction experience at all. So again, we hired this man 3 years ago. He has the expertise. We've seen it countywide, beautiful firehouses, county parks, everything we've done since. I don't know why we would not put him in charge.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteman.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Does any member of the school board have any questions?
Not any questions. That's like that. Lewis and Clark predates everybody on the school board. I mean, that stuff's all from.
Not me.
I know, not you, but like none of us were responsible for.
No, that was Stanley, and Stanley did what he could. But that's how we got to where we're at 3 years ago with the construction manager. That's what we need.
But correct me if I may here, and I've heard that, and Mr. Taylor and Sean, you were also on the school board when we did the expansion and of the high school as well as Madison.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, if you remember, we had joint meetings and we had a referendum that was put on the table. How much do we want for referendum?
Yes.
40 million or 25 million? The Board of Supervisors, I think Mr. Akers was on the board at that time. Many of the members here were on that board at the time. The school board at that time chose to go to the public with a 25 million rather than a $40 million referendum. That was a decision that the school board made.
15 years ago.
Subsequently, no, that was not 15 years ago. That was done in
That was my
2000.
first term, so.
2017.
I started in 2016
Okay.
and the bond referendum had occurred prior to
Okay.
that.
Yeah, the
So,
bond, but they're
It was
constructing.
2014.
That was like my second or third year on the board.
So anyway, as a result of that, when the high school expansion came, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, when the expansion happened, there were certain things that weren't done because there wasn't money there.
Correct.
And additionally, I believe there wasn't money to furnish the contingency, which is supposed to be 10%. The contingency for that project was 1%. And so as a result, things like once you expanded the high school, there were things in that project that did not happen. For example, when you do a project or an expansion or whatever, you need to furnish classrooms with desks, with technology. That did not happen.
But none, while I was on the board at that time, none of these people were there, and I don't think any of the people who were responsible for that project work in the county anymore in regards to constructions or renovations or anything like that. So any issues that we've had in the past are with people from the past. I don't think any of our current staff, and correct me if I'm wrong, has worked on.
No. And I think ultimately, while we acknowledge that historical patterns may have been fraught with some hurdles, I think I've been superintendent for 8 years. We did a 93-day rollout of the trailers. While that's small in comparison to some of the projects we're discussing, I think that we have demonstrated that we do our due diligence. We like to be collaborative. We want to communicate. We want to make sure that everyone's well informed. We keep everyone abreast. If something we've said needs to change, we make sure all parties are knowledgeable before that change occurs. So we definitely have a pattern of being above board in the work that we do. And so I think what has been hard as a superintendent, and I won't speak on behalf of my 6 bosses here, but what has been challenging is to understand why there would be an expectation that a board would be asked to give up their Code of Virginia rights in order to afford the local entity, which we're grateful for, providing the fiscal resources to achieve any type of project. That is a hard item to understand. When we did not have the insight that Mr. Whiteman just shared, we had asked for that written statement of concern so that we could grow our understanding of why you had such hesitancy, because you all were here during that time, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not Mr. Forehand, but were you there during that process, Mr. Forehand?
I came in the middle.
Okay, so the same time as me probably. So I think we were really we're seeking to understand what the hesitancy of you permitting the Code of Virginia right to the school board to take place. And that's why in the December 15th letter, we asked for a written statement as to what were the documented concerns, because this entity wasn't around minus Mr. Kelly.
And if I may, I think, and don't let me speak to y'all if I say something, all of us were here, at least Nancy and I came in the middle of the renovation.
Sure.
Reggie, I think you came on
I was here.
prior, you were here at the same, before that, and then senior staff, county administrator, they all, and it's not the right term, but suffered through the challenges of that.
Sure.
And it left not a great taste in anyone's mouth. And we still taste it. And it's hard to get past that feeling that we don't want to turn, $40 million over again and then have to suffer through the same thing we experienced 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Sure.
And that's powerful from our perspective. And we don't really see it as taking away the right of building it. I don't think the state says that it must be constructed by the school board. It is it is a privilege or not a privilege, but it is a right granted that if you can construct the schools, but if you consent, it's just like any of us consenting to have
And-
someone else built for us.
And
So,
if I could say, it's not that this isn't a great school board or a dedicated board of supervisors, but when you were taking on a big project, you want to have somebody with the experience and the know-how and the training. I would no more try to educate your children than, that I would try to build a house. You need to have the architecture, you need to have the oversight, you need to have somebody like Mr. Whiteman just said, who knows what all the regulations are, because goodness knows the state likes to change regulations all the time. So when we say we want to be part of the control and we want to be not just handing you a flat check, is because we all have responsibilities to make sure that this project, whatever it ends up being, is something that is safe for our children, that is practical for the future of the county, and is economically a treasure to the county, not a burden. And that's what happened the last time. Everything kept leaking, everything kept breaking. It was just, it's like redoing an old house. If you don't know what you're doing, you create more problems. So please don't take it personally. Try to figure out how we can do this together and still come up with a project that we can be proud of. Now, Mr. Underwood, you are next.
Yeah, Dr. Gilbert, you mentioned giving up your rights by the code of Virginia. What rights are you giving up?
If you look at the memorandum of understanding draft that is
I
in
did.
your red folder, it clearly outlines that this is a codified right by the school board, and the one responsibility of the local government, the supervisor or town council, is the fiduciary responsibility.
That's your interpretation.
It
Our
is our
attorney,
legal
Mr.
interpretation.
Young man,
McKenzie.
Mr. McKenzie. Is that your interpretation as our board representative and our board attorney?
No, when we
Well,
look
I
at
didn't
law,
hear you ask your question.
yes, sir.
I didn't hear your answer.
No,
No, okay.
when we
So,
look at the
can you-
law on this, we think that the school board, as was mentioned before, certainly has the power to manage school property. But
Operation.
what this MOU is about was, well, how is this being done? And we don't see anything in the law that would prohibit this alternative arrangement whereby the county maintains the money, does the construction with the involvement of the school, and then transfers the property over to the school, at which point it becomes the school's responsibility.
So as far as we're concerned, that's an inaccurate statement that we're taking away their rights.
Right, well, I don't see a I don't see a
I
prohibition.
just want to make sure that we're all on the same page first.
Yeah.
Because I certainly don't want to overstep our bounds and take the rights of anything from them. And by the same token, I want this board to understand that we have an obligation to taxpayers to ensure that those monies are spent as we deem appropriate. That's what you're elected to do. So I don't want to take their rights away in terms of operating schools or any of that. So I think we're at an impasse there because we believe we're well within our rights to do what we're doing.
Correct. So yes, it all depends on the order of operations. Once money is appropriated to the schools, or once title is transferred to the schools, they are in charge of that money and that property.
Correct.
However, I don't believe there's anything in the law that would prohibit the county from retaining control of the money and containing control of the property during the construction process, and then transferring title over to the school when it's complete, which is the scenario that was proposed in the original MOU.
So is the school attorney here to rebut or give us a?
We were not notified that there be legal representation, so our attorney is not here today.
Sorry.
I'll just add that the one caveat is obviously anything happening on existing school property needs the school's
Approval.
consent
Right,
and
correct.
cooperation. So if you're building an addition on property that belongs to the school has control of that property because
Correct.
they own it, and they need to provide permission for that construction.
Correct. Okay. So I think we're at an impasse there because we're saying, like, you don't want to give up your right. We don't either. We think we have the right to stand as we are. You think you have the right to say, I'm not giving up my right. So I think we're at an impasse there. Until that's settled, is why we had both attorneys look at the MOU, then how can we move forward?
And that was our question. We didn't think that there was any type of conversation regarding the two MOUs as far as trying to meet in the middle, if you will. Once our MOU was submitted, there was deafening silence, if you will, for quite some time. So we were under the
No
impression,
silence from us.
well, we were not communicated with respect to next steps regarding a.
Mr. McKenzie, you need to answer that because you were in contact with the school board's attorney with the MOU, is
Through the
that
whole
not
process.
correct?
Sure.
Well, first, before you do that,
Yeah.
explain that no, you stand up, but explain that the original MOU was nothing more than a restatement of the current code.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't know how much I was going to talk. Yeah, so we did a timeline on all this, the whole,
Well, first, the original one is just a statement of law, nothing special in it.
primarily, primarily it is, these are the parties that we're talking about Bowling Green Elementary. Here, these are the relevant constitutional provisions, these are the relevant statutory provisions, and then it goes into roles and responsibilities. And in very broad strokes, it outlines what I was just discussing, that for this project, the proposal would be that the county funds and does the construction and then transfers control with the collaboration of the schools. That was approved by the board in June, went over to
June of.
June of 2025.
Thank you.
In the June 10th meeting. And it was part of a broader vote on a number of issues related to the design services and the original learning cottages. And then we sent it over to the schools asking for revisions. I got a copy in August 25th, 2025 from the school's attorney, Stacey Haney. Wanted to reach out, discuss it. She and I spoke on the 28th, and they sent a revised MOU on that same date. I sent it over to the board, and we reviewed that in closed session twice, September 9th and September 23rd. And frankly, the conclusion was, which is what I communicated to Ms. Haney on after, let's see, the second closed session meeting, September 23rd, on October 3rd, we said, this is a memorandum of understanding. What this short document is supposed to do is memorialize the understanding between the parties. The differences between the original MOU that the Board of Supervisors adopted and the red line that we got from the school boards were so dramatic that there was no understanding to memorialize. There was no further revisions the attorneys could make because the parties were too far apart about what exactly was being said. And admitting, Mr. Thomas, that this MOU didn't say much. It just said a statement of the law and then in broad strokes what this construction project would look like. And so that's where we left it, because sending more red lines back and forth isn't effective if there's no understanding to write about. So that's where it was left in October of 2025.
I do have one question. Based on the conversation on the dais in December regarding the school boards, and correct me if I'm wrong with this characterization, that the schools would retain control over the design of the renovation. Is that a fair and accurate statement?
That'd be my understanding.
But you do the specification.
Okay.
To make sure that
All the needs are met.
Yes.
the needs were met educationally.
Okay.
safety for
You
the
do
kids,
specification.
Okay.
Not free roam without any consideration.
So, understood. So the MOU that was presented to the school board lists that the school board would have cooperation and not control over design. So to me, that's a material difference in what was submitted and what was discussed on the dais last month. That raises another concern as to why we need to
If you put
come
it that
together.
way, you get more than cooperation, you get control of the specification.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't memorialized.
But if you want us to make that
So-
change right now and move ahead, we're ready to do it.
That is something that actually is already part of our codified rights. The design, the safety, the building, construction, that is already codified based on our attorney's perspective. And so it's not as if that is something that we are inheriting through this process. It's something we already own.
Okay.
It's the fiduciary responsibility that comes from the local government. But I think ultimately we need to decide, whether or not who is owning responsibility of what. Is this a project that we ultimately believe is essential to the good of a long-term solution? Do we agree just on a gym? Do we agree on 4 to 6 classrooms and a gym? Do we agree solely on 4 to 6 classrooms, or do we not agree at all? Because we can sit here and we can go back and forth and talk about who should have building responsibilities, but if in the end we don't fully collectively believe in the project in and of itself, well, let's table it and put our energies into long-term solutions then.
Dr. Cover, my understanding is the MOU is for anything that we're moving forward for any building, and not just for this one, but for like future buildings when we know that there's going to be where any new school is, however any other future building is built. It's my understanding that it would be not just this project per se, but projects in the future. So it is important to us because you are going to have needs coming up, and it is taxpayer money that we're dealing with. So to us, that's a key for moving forward down 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. It's not just, hey, we're concentrating on Bowling Green right now. It's the future everywhere with construction in the county and the schools.
I want to be clear, the Board of Supervisors wants to establish a precedent tonight that all future school construction would have to go through the Board of Supervisors then.
I think the collective thought is that we're better suited to build large buildings than the school board.
Answer is yes.
And it's that is the crux of it. And
Well, if I may, and that sentiment has never been expressed to our board, which also supports, I think, my initial request that we come together and talk about these things. As presented.
I have a question. I'm sorry, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. And I'm new. And all of that stuff that happened previously, totally unaware of, right? And I am a big fan of sometimes we have to let things go and move on because you're dealing with new people and a lot of people who don't know a lot of things. But if I'm reading from your MOU that you sent over, it says purpose. The purpose of this MOU is to establish the framework for funding and construction of 4 to 6 classrooms and a gym, the facilities at Bowling Green Elementary by the Board of Supervisors, and transfer the ownership and operational control of facilities upon completion. So this does not say we want to talk about every single building project that the school plans from now until however long.
correct.
So what you just said kind of goes against what this says.
Excuse.
So how am I supposed to understand that this is what we're talking about? This is what I've read. This is what I've talked about with my board.
And I think what the difference is right now, that was our main concern. Last year, we did the trailers. This was, we all felt was the main concern for space. Now, if I'm wrong on that, that's a school board thing. You have to correct me on that. But if we can take, we certainly can't afford to take all the projects that need to happen over the next multiple years and put them in one document.
Right.
Because nobody would be able to afford to live in Caroline County.
Right.
But the idea is the same. We work to, school board advises us of needs. And we talked about additional classrooms and gym last year, and everybody I thought seemed to be fine with that. And now for some reason, that's not sufficient. But you know, if we had come together last year, we could have already gotten plans put together for those additions and for Madison. But it's got to be a joint thing. First of all,
Wait, so
you
why,
all voted
why
to
does it
build these
feel, why
buildings.
does it feel like it's not? I'm sorry, you said it had to, if we came together last year, I do believe we've asked you multiple times to get together, to collaborate, and multiple times we're ignored, we're not responded to, we don't have a quorum, there's not enough people. So from here, it really does not appear that it is a wanting to collaborate. From my perspective, being new, and again, I don't know, I've talked to some of you I know a little more personally than others, and it doesn't feel very collaborative. It feels like, nope, this is what we want, this is, if we're collaboratively
Works both
speaking.
ways, if I could
Right,
could say,
absolutely.
and that's something we would have to work on. And by God's grace, we can work on that. But I still have to make sure people can afford to buy groceries. We can't do all this at one time. And we need to work together on it. But we're not giving blank checks because we need to make sure it's done right. We've learned, as Mr. Whiteman said, that there have been issues in the past. I was not here then. We need to make sure we have the right people in the right place. We have the right designs, and we go with our first needs first, and maybe do a long-term plan.
I do.
But
Yes,
if
sir.
that means we have, excuse me, if that means we have a small little work committee that reports back to the boards and get more done that way, I don't know what the answer is. But what I do know is playing, no, I'm gonna be in charge of this, or I'm gonna be in charge of that, or it's gonna be the way I want it this way or that way. When we are saying, look, let's work on this together, you tell us what your educational needs are, then we'll work on construction and together. But it can't just be all one way or the other because we all have certain needs.
I do think, Mr. Underwood, I understand you have a question for me, but along the lines of what Ms. Carson is saying, if you look at the MOU that we presented to you under C, the header called Joint Board of Supervisors and School Board Responsibility, we itemized 1 through 4. The Board of Supervisors and School Board jointly agree. The first item talks about cooperation. Both parties will provide input and review regarding the facility's design to ensure they meet educational and operational needs. Final design approval rests with the school board. Procurement. The parties will jointly participate in and manage procurement for design and construction in accordance with the Virginia Public Procurement. Virginia Code is quoted. No contract for design or construction will be awarded without approval of both parties. 3, construction management. The parties or their designees will oversee the construction process, including contracts, contractor payments, and adherence to building codes. 4, coordination. Each party, through its designee, will maintain regular communication with the other party through its designee regarding progress, timelines, and any proposed changes to project scope. Each party will participate through appropriate designees or members in monthly facility update meetings to be scheduled by the superintendent or designee. So I think we are
Not as far apart as we maybe think.
correct. I don't want
Chris,
to
how did you read that section? Would you, if you don't mind telling us, because we had this discussion in closed session.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that the issue there is, if you just keep going, the big change, the fundamental change is who retains ownership and control leading up to and during construction. And so number 4 originally said that, well, I guess the MOU as a whole originally said that the board would fund, procure, do all those things that are now joint, would be the lead on that because it was going to retain ownership of the property, which means the money would still be board money. It wouldn't get appropriated to the school. The board of supervisors would spend the money to build the project using its, Mr. Napier And then it would transfer ownership of control once the project is complete to the schools. And I think that's, the code section that I think we're talking about is in the original MOU 22.1-793. It says the school board has the power and duty to care for and manage all of its school property. But the difference here being, and really the fundamental shift from the original version to the revised version, is it went from the Board of Supervisors retaining ownership and control during construction to it becoming an entirely joint project, with both parties being in control of the funding, the money, the construction, and everything, and there is no transfer of ownership and control. Ownership and control would always be retained by the school. That's, to me, the major loggerhead. And that was something that when we discussed it, said, well, that was kind of the whole point of the MOU, to discuss this somewhat different approach. And if we're not going to take a different approach, we don't have an understanding.
Because anything done by committee is never done well. So one group needs to be in charge, and I'll just say this, that we've had multiple discussions over the last year about the deferred maintenance, $90+ million on buildings. So from a perspective of we've got all this deferred maintenance, I don't know why you wouldn't let one entity come in. We're going to pay for it if there's any cost over, and if there's a change, it would fall on us, not the school board. We would turn over a completed project for the students to you all to operate and use. So I just see this as a win for everybody. I don't know why the school board has such an issue of us building something and turning it over. We've worked through the MOU by committee. By committee never works. When you're talking about funding and push me, pull me on this being done or that being done. I was here for the Bowling Green floors. The floors were a nonstop issue, and actually I think the Board of Supervisors got involved to try to help get those fixed. But we are trying to give you a quality project. But you're the ones that say to us, we have all this deferred maintenance, we have this, we have that, and we're trying to facilitate getting you out of that hole. So
well, if I could respond to that, Mr. Say, I appreciate the perspective and the question to your attorney. I'm not certain I understand how a multi-million-dollar expansion of Bowling Green that does not address our long-term needs addresses deferred maintenance problems. Can you help me understand that?
Yeah, because the deferred maintenance is a lot of the facility, the facility itself. This is going to rehab. You're going to add a gym, so you're going to take care of a part of the building that hasn't seen any maintenance in a long time. You're going to add classrooms. We're going to take care of some of the deferred maintenance in Bowling Green Elementary by just the virtue of doing the additions.
So do you have those in figures that you can share, or is that what you believe may be occurring?
Well, I'm going by the same premise that you all did to us. Is you said, this is the deferred maintenance. Here's a number. And you showed us some leaky gutters and some doors that didn't work in pictures.
We had a full-fledged architect engineering firm come and do a comprehensive study, and they gave us a multi-page document that outlines all of those details.
You still know that there's deferred maintenance at Bowling Green that some of this would take care of.
I would like to see that in writing. I would like to see the cost savings that you're indicating would occur. But again, I come back to the root issue is this project a solution or a bridge to a long-term issue that we know is here and continuing to grow?
And Dr. Kalberg, I think you hit it right on the head there. Now, this is not a long-term solution. And we agree it's not a long-term solution. So I think our idea versus what you're saying, I think we may be on the same page, but we're not looking at this as a long-term solution.
Okay.
We're moving from point A to point B to point D to C to D is to get to a new school. That's what and we believe, and that's not the end solution either. Right.
Sure.
I believe that we're on the right track You say we're not on the right track. You'd rather, and that's okay. We
Right.
can get to California in 3 different ways. You can drive, I can fly,
Absolutely, Mr.
take the
Underwood.
train. So
Correct.
Mhm.
we need to look at what can we do right now, from my perspective. What can we do right now to make your school that's in critical need of help educationally? I think facility would increase probably some pride in that building. I think it would help maybe attract teachers. I think maybe it will. I don't have any data that says it will,
Sure.
but I believe it could help us. Because we need all the help we can get. Most of my kids go to Bowling Green. Like I said, 4 supervisors here have kids that, we have the worst scores, right? Our attendance is the worst. We have the newest teachers. We have the least qualified teachers. So, and she's shaking her head no, the principal, if I'm.
I don't think that is accurate,
If
but
I'm
we'll
not
carry
accurate,
on,
but I want
carry
you to
on.
correct me as I look
We'll
at
pull
the data. Yeah. But let's say, according to your accreditation and accountability,
Yes,
we have issue here. Correct? Would you say
we
that?
have an at-promise population and there
Yeah,
is
but
work to be done.
I'm not gonna go there yet. I'm not gonna go there I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
talk about those kids yet. I'm just gonna talk about what the data is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Why the data is saying that to me is something different. I'm just gonna talk about what it's saying to me. What it says is we need to do something here that maybe gives us a push, maybe gives us the impetus to keep moving in the right direction as a district. So it's short term for me, not long term. I know what the long term answer is.
We have a short-term solution that we
You have one, right?
erected,
Yes.
right? We did the 93-day build out of the learning villas. Some of you have had the opportunity to move through them. We did that in a fashion that did not disrupt the flow of instruction other than the first 7 or 8 days of school. With all of the items that have been mentioned in relation to our Bowling Green population and the data, we're really stating that putting a building under construction and turning that into an active construction site for the next 2 years creates the environment that our at-promise population needs. Well, we already have an ideal solution that's going to have to be disbanded in order to add on. And then we're going to work on a new elementary school immediately following. And we believe that's a fiscally responsible approach that is solving a short-term issue. I'm struck. I agree
But you believe it's
wholeheartedly
fiscally
with the gym.
irresponsible. We don't.
But I agree. You don't
We're
believe it is.
responsible for the money.
And we're
that you need
responsible
to-
for the instructional environment.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. And so that
We
is
want to
my
give you the best
point.
instructional environment possible.
But we have to agree that that project creates this most sound environment for these students and is a good steward of our resources. And I am not there yet. That's why I'm
But you're not,
trying to
we're
listen.
spending the resource. We're spending the money. The resource is what you're talking about, right?
But I would like those resources earmarked for a new elementary school that
Right, but-
then
but-
allows
yeah.
us to redistrict
Right.
the whole division
And I
create school
understand that,
pride.
but we are not there. I cannot, and I'm just speaking for me, and I'm sorry.
And I am as well.
We're having a good dialogue.
We're having a good conversation.
To build a new school, let's say $50 million. To operate that building, another $8 million per year, correct?
I would say 50 would be inclusive of furniture and
No, I'm
employee.
talking about the operational yearly
Yeah,
cost.
and
The
see,
yearly
that's the other
cost.
thing, we didn't agree
Staff.
on an elementary school.
Right, we haven't, but I'm just gonna use that for right
No,
now.
I think ours earmarked 30 something if I can.
No,
recall
but I'm
this.
saying,
We're
there
not-
are other thoughts like building a new high school,
Right,
even though
We're
that
not
costs a
sold
lot
on
more, but
elementary
that
yet.
benefits more people.
right. We're not sold on elementary,
Sure.
but let's, when I'm using the elementary, I'm using it.
Use that as an example. Carry
Yes, sure. Your building cost per school, basically. It'd be just a number.
on. Oh, I need to turn to our chief financial
Just-
officer over
just-
there. Yeah, I wouldn't
Well, I
even
mean,
make a guesstimate.
You
on
got a
that, Mr.
$73 million
Underwood.
budget,
Right.
you have, 5 schools, 4 schools, and an alternative center.
Right. Well,
So-
I can say the percentage associated with salary and compensation and benefits of our total budget, Marcia, is the percentage
40,
Upwards of
88, 89%.
so, right, so that's a new tax bill, correct? Because you
Certainly, a new
operate the school,
facility would be,
because
yes,
you have to
sir.
operate the school.
Right.
Correct? So now you're adding not only the cost of the building, but you're adding $8 million yearly for operation. You're not going to change the ADM for the county by enough to put 800 or 500 kids in that building.
Well,
So you're not going to get additional ADM money.
the demographic study does indicate over the 10-year span, even at moderate growth, we could fill an elementary school of 500 students with new students. That's what the demographic study
But we
does
haven't,
show.
but we've just since 2010, I think we've grown maybe 600 kids total. 38 to 40. I think your number last night was 4299.
I can't recall
ADM,
top of
well,
my
I
head,
can remember
sorry.
off the head was 4290, just a couple under from last night. You gave the number. So when you look at growth over the 10-year period from where we are till now, it won't fill that a new building of 500. So where's that money coming from if we built that school in 2 years, where's the money coming to operate that building and pay for that building?
Well, again, you do a redistricting and some of the staff that are in the current facilities get shifted. And then over time, based on the demographic
Over what
study.
time?
which-
Over time is a very,
Well, Mr. Underwood, all we can go on is what the demographer utilizes, which is a national norm
but I
formula
can look
that is
longitudinal though.
regionally,
I can look
that is-
longitudinal from 2010 and say, that's not happening.
but it's not a it's not a look back, it's a look forward.
We're looking forward, I agree, but that tells us where we're going.
But which is how you have to operate to build new schools.
The number of children, the demographics are, and our numbers suggest that pupils per housing has gone down instead of gone up.
Are you speaking of
Caroline
Caroline County?
Caroline County.
Okay. And
So-
I'm sorry, what was your data source for that?
Different, Mr. Hughes.
And what was Mr. Hughes's source?
Census, I thought.
Okay.
So,
I don't know that it went down a lot.
I think it's just the calculation that the demographers
Right, I think
use,
they-
so
I think
like
they all
1
use-
point something versus
we're-
1 point something.
yeah, we're all using data that
Mhm.
we could get 1,000 kids move in and we could lose students like some of the other districts are doing, but we're hoping that doesn't happen. And it doesn't appear that that's happening, although the data says we're getting less students per household.
How does that compare to rooftops that are being
Right.
built in the neighborhoods that have been approved?
We-
And that's the aspect that
Right.
I think is important as
And I
well.
think, and I agree with you there, because we have an issue that we do have a lot of rooftops that have been approved. But that's why I'm using, what's that?
They're being built.
They're being, yeah. So that's why I'm saying the people that are coming don't have the children that we thought we would have, to me right now. But it doesn't take away the need for us to build a school. I'm just saying, I want you to understand that there has to be funding mechanisms to do all the things you want to do in a long term. And right now, I'm looking at your term.
So can I ask a follow-up question associated with
And I'm sorry.
what you, as a board, may have discussed, and you may not be at the point where you would even have a response to this, but if I was trying to put on a supervisor hat and imagine potentially what a plan would be that you are having closed door conversation about during closed session.
We don't talk about school, our discussion about schools was an open session at the December 10th
I'm
meeting.
referencing the MOU, Mr. Seeley.
Okay,
which I
because
kn-
to
yes,
say we're talking
absolutely.
about school numbers and
No.
and
I wasn't
is
insinuating that,
really
sir.
not correct.
No, sir, no, and I would not expect that to be happening, and so I would never share that out loud. However, having said that, during these conversations, we were talking about the MOU, and we're hearing Mr. Black indicate that potentially this MOU is to serve as a template or a boilerplate, right, for future building. I am wondering, and this is Sarah Calveric, so by no means is this reflective of anything I've talked to the board about, but I am wondering, if there's desire to build a high school, and I've heard some select folks say that that is something they would like to see happen. Is your plan to address the elementary capacity then, to build onto Bowling Green, then do your facility study, figure out how to add on to Madison, and then to redistrict Lewis and Clark, Madison, and Bowling Green into 3 schools? Is that ultimately what the potential plan is? Because if that is, we just need to be open and talk about that. If it's not, then I still need to understand how we're going to address Lewis and Clark.
High school,
Well, that's a
then we have
good,
open building.
Can I do that one?
There's no consensus
Yeah,
amongst the 6 of us.
Yeah,
We don't-
I'm not
right.
understanding where we're going.
We don't have a consensus, but if we want to talk strategic plan and long range plan, that's probably something we should do together. But
Correct.
my plan would be build a new high school where we have land already in the high school area.
Okay.
Turn the high school into a middle school, the middle school into an elementary school, build another school on the western part of the county, and that'll take care of another elementary school on the western part of the county.
Right.
That'll take care of some of that growth. That would be a long-term plan if we all put it together.
Now, I can speak to that plan because our architect, our RMM, who came and presented to our board in a workshop that was open to the public. And originally there were 8 presentations made, and our board used the rubric that we talked to you about to narrow that down to things that we thought were more economically feasible. That was the most expensive
We know that.
and
You know that.
the most longitudinally time-consuming plan. It was like 8 years that would take for that domino effect, and we don't have
To
8
alleviate
years,
pressure at the elementary school.
right? And that's after the design.
But does that sound like a good idea?
I
That's
mean,
a
if we
great
had a
idea.
money
Like, we
tree
can't
and
wait
we
8
could
years.
condense
Okay,
that.
wait. It's
Sure.
Can we hear from, I mean, all of our board members are speaking and we're not hearing from any of your board.
By all means.
And I think that it's time for the boards, I mean, this is a board to board discussion and we rarely have them. And we get,
I'll do that if you. Well, can I get back to Sean saying that's a great idea? Because I want to make sure we understand that part.
Because I was with you 100%. That's
But
exactly what I said.
that and that's the point. If that is a great idea, and we know it's going to take a while to make that idea work, wouldn't it be prudent for us to add on a little piece here, a little piece there, so we
Yes.
can basically take care of the instant
But the
overcrowding?
problem is, we would have to start the high school today in order to get that process going. And that's, again, so we would just be looking at spending whatever millions of dollars to add on to each school while we're waiting to have the finances to build a high school so we can start an 8-year process to trickle all of that down. And immediately, and we don't, you know, the demographic study has all said that it's elementary schools are right now, and then 5 years from now, probably a middle school is going to need to be expanded, or a second middle school or something is going to happen. But I was with you completely. It just made sense to repurpose the existing buildings, but it was going to take so long.
And
what do we do with our 3 elementary schools in the meantime?
And this is my last point, and I'm done. But I think that's the discussion we should have had together. Because you guys decide what's the best from an educational perspective. And you can't say this is the best idea and then give it to me and say, you got to pay for it.
Well, I was a fan of it. I'm not saying it was the best. I was a fan.
No,
of
I'm just
repurposing,
saying
but it's the
that
most expensive and the longest amount of time to take.
And we
So
have-
it's not, there's no feasibility in
But-
doing that.
but-
We have issues now at 2 of our elementary schools, and the ADM numbers say that Madison Elementary is adding more than any of the other 2 schools are right now.
And I wanna help do that. But again, I'm saying that if we do something like that and we add on a little piece here, a little piece there, that'll soften the impact.
So when would you see the high school starting?
Probably in the
Go
same-
8 years from there is when you would start.
Probably
that
in the same
process.
3 or 4 year time frame we're
Yeah,
talking
and
about
that's-
now.
And I agree that there's lots of ways to get to California. I agree with that 100%. But
I ain't walking, yeah.
not taking a step is not moving us forward. And like we're seriously at a position now at those elementary schools, we have to have space. And we, pardon me? Well,
We can solve that real quick.
But that's there, that doesn't help the other schools.
Yeah, and
Okay,
and I know Mr.
if I
Taylor
could, and
wanted
this
to
would be
have the floor.
first time I've ever been, but,
Yeah.
Anybody got watch?
I think right now,
Written that down.
our purpose today is to try to see how we can fix this issue that we have with the adding on to Bowling Green if we choose to do that. And to try to get funding for the new learning colleges or trailers for Lewis and Clark. Those are the two things. We were in a meeting, and I can't remember when it was, but we had a long discussion, and it was obviously clear that the Board of Supervisors believed that adding on to Bowling Green was the thing to do. That came out of that meeting. And we wanted funds for the learning colleges. And so we agreed as a board, both boards, that if you give us the funds for the learning colleges, you can add on to the school. That's the long and short of it.
Correct.
That's what we said.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, let me finish. Now, if we don't figure out a way to do that, that's going to hurt our trust issue. That's why we got trust issue.
Mhm.
Because things are said in the meeting, and then once we get out the meeting, things change. I don't have the answer to it, but I know that we need to figure out a way to address whatever the construction management concerns are, whatever the design concerns are, and determine who's going to be responsible for what and how we can work together to make that happen. That's what we ought to be doing now.
And
With all due
if I could,
respect, I just want to
uh,
make sure that we have clarity regarding that comment, and I respect your interpretation, Mr. Taylor. At that Board of Supervisor meeting, when you did go to the podium, you were a voice of one and did not have a constituted meeting. With that being said, I hear the groans. I simply want to point out that the comment made does not stand, and the request was made that Mr. Taylor bring that back to the next board meeting for discussion, which is exactly what occurred. Our board did agree, I believe it was a 6-0 vote, to proceed with the development of a joint MOU associated with that project. So we upheld what was stated at the podium, but we have not crafted a joint MOU at this point. So that is where we are. I'm sorry, Mr. Sealy, did you
No,
want to
but
have a comment?
No, I'm talking.
No, but Sarah, if you, I'm sorry, Dr. Kabir.
Yeah.
If you were finished, the vibes that I have heard from you tonight is that we don't know anything about these rooms you're going to add on or this gym. It's not what we want, but yet, as Mr. Taylor's, that's what we have been working under that assumption that yes, that was going to be one of the bridges, the cottage, the trailers, and then we were going to add on to cover this, and then we would move forward to a next step. But I got definite feelings from you that you in no way want any additions over here because you have other plans. So can you clarify what the board wants?
Well, we haven't finished. Wait. We're still this is a board meeting, and I think we should hear from the board members.
Mr. Sealy, I think we all have that understanding and
No,
your desire.
but we
so
never
we'll
finish.
carry on. Mhm.
Well, the
Absolutely.
board member can certainly answer my question.
Absolutely. Do any school board members want to chime in?
What's your question?
Why did we get the feeling tonight, or at least I got the feeling tonight, that the idea of putting the extra rooms on Bowling Green was not what the board wanted, the school board wanted?
I don't think it was what the school board wanted, but I think the school board agreed to it because of the position we were in. We felt like we were not going to get the funds necessary for the learning cottages or trailers if we had not agreed
to the, extension of both.
No, that's honest.
That is truthful, and that is
That's
accurate.
fair. I mean,
It's
that's
in an
fair.
if-then position.
That's fair.
We were put in an if-then
We don't,
position.
Dr. Rollins fails.
If I may speak to that, if we go back to that meeting and that night where that conversation happened, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the purpose of the meeting at that time, we were coming forward after investing in the architecture study, providing all of the information. I believe Marcia has that whole binder down there, putting it out to the public. At that time, I believe that we had already done the community meetings and gotten the feedback, and we were coming to share that information. That was what was on the agenda. That is what was provided the Thursday before the meeting, according to our rules. And when we came into that meeting to share that information, what transpired was a document that was passed out. Mr. Seal, I believe you passed it out. It doesn't really matter. But in that meeting, a document was passed out of something that we had not seen, and not everyone on the Board of Supervisors had seen, digested, whatever. And so I'll pause. Is that appropriate?
No, it was a joint work session.
What
It
was the memo you say you passed out?
It was a 1-page, 2-page PowerPoint that suggested a new school, a high school. It was something else of ideas that some board members had generated.
Right.
Are we
Oh, right.
are we all tracking?
Oh, yes, yes.
It was
And that's-
in that joint meeting.
And that was the one where I said they're not speaking on for the whole board. That was.
Correct.
That was,
Yeah.
right,
I
all
remember
of, all
This
of the
is the
board members had
same
seen it,
evening.
but he didn't return the call to Nancy.
Podium conversation occurred.
So in that meeting,
Yes.
the purpose of the meeting was for us to share the community feedback and to make you all aware as a checkpoint. Because the agenda was not honored and other topics came for discussion, we spent a lot of time going, what in the world? I'm just speak freely. We listened because we had not heard these things before, and it did not appear, my impression of my board members, I'll speak for myself, was it had an appearance that all of the information and the study and the documents that we had provided were either not reviewed or were reviewed, and there was a new suggestion on the table. In that same meeting, we presented that it was very time sensitive to move forward with Bowling Green,
With the trailers.
with the trailers. We tried to get a consensus in the meeting, and the standard practice is, if this board pushed to say, is that an agreement? What do you agree about that? The response is, you're in a joint session, we cannot make a decision, there is no vote. We were against the time clock. The meeting dismissed, it went out into the public meeting, and from there on the dais, the conversation continued about the new ideas that were proposed from the Board of Supervisors. Am I speaking accurately?
Yes.
At that time, from the dais, questions were asked, brainstorming was happening, consensus building was an attempt, and there were questions being asked from the dais to the staff in the back of the room. The same way that we are in the auditorium as participant listeners, we are not in a group where we can make a decision. So the same rules that the Board of Supervisors apply to this joint publicized meeting, we held to in the back of that auditorium. There was no consensus. And at that time, one of the members, it doesn't matter who, asked a very direct question because it was hinging on the understanding that you all had on the dais as negotiations and consensus building was happening. At that time, Mr. Taylor was called from the audience to go down front. And he was asked a question that multiple times he turned around to say, I can't speak for the board. We've not met. And then there was a question and an answer provided. At that time, Mr. Taylor did not speak for the will of the board because there was no conversation with the board, nor was there an actual meeting of the board. And at that time, as Mr. Taylor has stated, and all of us respect him and respect the difficult position that he was put in. His priority was, how do we address this immediate need of Bowling Green and the time sensitivity that you are in your publicly called meeting where you can make a motion, have a second, call a vote, move it to action, send the letter with appropriation. And he stood in that moment and he made a call that he believed was in the best interest of the students and his heart.
Without
Am I,
consensus of the board, that's
are we
correct.
tracking that that is what happened in that room? Mr. Taylor, am I speaking for you? As the aftermath of that, because we know that Mr. Taylor did not speak at the will of the board, the consensus was built among the Board of Supervisors. And everyone nodded and shook their head and said, well, if then. If
we
they
give you the
say,
reversion money,
if they say that we're going to be able to do this, then this.
okay, let's say what they are. If we give you the reversion
If
money,
we give-
then we build the extension, or the other way
If you
around.
let us build this building, then this, it went back and forth.
Right.
The point of the matter is, there was conversation on your board that happened in a formal meeting as a result of a joint board meeting that did not materialize into what it should have, because the materials that have been paid for by subject matter experts was not reviewed, and we did not speak about that. As a result, Mr. Taylor had to come to this board, and we all had to digest what happened. That's real talk. And what this board decided, because we are a master board, was that the will of the board is what goes forward.
Right.
Mr. Taylor acknowledges that he should not have responded on behalf of the board in that situation. And we acknowledge that he never should have been put in the position to answer the question in the first place. So we live and we learn. And what our board then decided was, how do we move forward in this situation? All board members have had their say. And what we decided to do as a motion of support and board voice, and that's all I need to unpack at this moment, was that we could consider this project if there was a joint MOU. From there, we respected the fact that Mr. Taylor actually gave everybody something to work with. He didn't come empty-handed. Excuse me.
That's why I called you the one.
Uncle Floyd. Right? He came with the MOU.
I'm done.
Right? With this MOU, we then received it. It's documented. We had our timeline. When you put this MOU beside this MOU, and this is why I've been taking so many notes, the issue that we had, one, is that this original summarized the Code of Virginia, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And what our position was is, if we're going to sign a document that's binding an agreement, we're not going to sign a summary of the code. If it's going to be the Code of Virginia, state the Code of Virginia. Am I correct, board?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And so when you see, I'll wait, if you have a comment, I'd love to hear it.
Go ahead.
I mean, the Code of Virginia is 70 pages. We
So if
offered you 6 classrooms and a gym as a gift from the Board of Supervisors.
I have a,
That's all we've.
I'd
No.
like to
We
respectfully
offered
ask
that
for
as
my
a
time back,
gift
Mr.
to the
Seeley.
Board of Supervisors. So what is the answer? I guess is
What the
question.
answer is you can't gift me what the Code of Virginia says is my right to do.
Mr.
That is
McKenzie,
one.
Mr. McKenzie,
I'm
does the Code
sorry.
of Virginia prohibit us from doing this?
I'm sorry, Ms. Long. I have the floor, and we have board norms and protocols
You
for our
know-
decorum, and it's not cutting across each other when we're trying to establish an understanding.
Okay. Can
I
you
think we
wrap-
have a
can you
consensus.
Wrap it up in 2 minutes. We have another meeting.
I understand
Let's
that, but
finish,
we have wasted 15 minutes talking about long-term goals with schools, and I think we're at the place where if you look around the room, we're having consensus. People are shaking their head that, yeah, I was there. Yeah, I remember. We're tracking.
Mhm.
And we're at the MOU. I will make it brief.
Okay.
We started here. Thank you for giving us a place to work with. The change that you see is that we substituted or swapped out summaries of the Code of Virginia, where you cite 2.2 section such and such, to actually include the code. From there, we looked at what is the intent. The intent is to collaborate. Everybody has said it all night. So where are the places that we can have an agreement to collaborate? We have that spelled out. The question that I have for your lawyer, if you would please, sir, is that earlier you stated that the purpose of this MOU was to, quote, do something different, which to me establishes what our attorney has advised us. Per the Code of Virginia, the Code of Virginia outlines that the roles and the responsibilities of a school board are this, and this is within our purview. And the reason why we need to have an MOU is to have a written understanding of how we will do something different. Did you all have that conversation?
With your attorney?
Yes, sir.
No. And it's really difficult to talk about this when we just say the Code of Virginia. We have to cite whatever, if there's a statute you're talking about that you want us to respond to, give me the statute and we will respond to it. But we can't just talk about the Code of Virginia. If we're talking about the section that I cited before, again, that deals with school property, when you own it. And I think everyone recognizes that traditionally, a construction project like this would be probably done by having this money appropriated to the schools and then it having managed and done by the schools. That's what happened with the high school, and there was a problem there. So there's been a new proposal that says, how about we do it a little differently, well within what's provided under the code, which says the money doesn't get appropriated yet. It remains the board's money. And the board spends it as the construction manager in collaboration with the schools. The problem with the red line is that it changed that fundamental premise. And that was really the whole point of the MOU.
It changed, may I interject to ask a question?
Yes.
What it changed was the traditional best practice, long-standing understanding of school construction to become something else.
Not necessarily
No,
best
that's not
practice.
right. No.
You know, what we're trying to figure out is a way that works for everyone under existing law. And there's no prohibition to this proposal under the law that we've seen. I think everything cited in here as controlling law is complied with, which is why we put it in there in the first place. I'm not willing to say there's a best practice one or the other. I think the best practice in any given situation is the one that is acceptable to both sides and gets the project done.
Is there a traditional
think-
practice?
Yeah, I
I'm
was
just
looking
going to
for
say, I think there's a
historical
difference
precedents.
between best practice and traditional practice. Traditional practice in the Commonwealth is for school boards to maintain ownership of their facilities, not necessarily to have the money transferred to the school board. Sometimes the money remains there and the supervisor or the town council, they still maintain ownership of the funding and pay the bills, etc. But the traditional practice of school construction is under the school board. That is traditional. May not be best, but it is traditional.
And what the MOU proposes is that ownership potentially best with the school. But the proposal was, and I think still is, during construction, ownership remains of the construction project remains with the board of supervisors.
So they would be in charge of the day-to-day operation of the building.
That is the proposal from the MOU. No,
That's a building.
No.
A construction
Not the
site.
building.
We don't ever want anything operational.
Yes.
Which would impact the instructional classroom setting.
Not really, because it's on the other side of a knockout wall.
But it does also absorb a large portion of our playground area. So I think there is so much to contemplate, and that is a consideration. You know, it also eliminates and requires movement of the current learning cottages, which would then we'd have to study to
Where does the
accommodate
construction
that.
equipment
The
go?
domino effect is very
Who's in
challenging.
charge of doing what in the day-to-day operation of the building?
Just
while the
so-
construction crew is there?
So at this,
Who's in charge?
Come up with is, this is what I would like to see. I would like to see the two attorneys have that intentional conversation.
Sure.
Per, I think it's 22.1, 50, all the code is listed in the
Right.
MOU.
I think if I'm guessing, I mean, the provision we're talking about as far as school authority over its property is 22.179. Think. If but again, I will talk to Stacy, Ms. Haney, and make sure that that supposition is correct. And anything else, I think when she and I emailed last, and I don't mean to be a broken record, but the issue is she and I can talk about the law. We can say, do we agree that this is what the controlling law?
I think that would be the first step.
Yes.
If I can interject a helpful piece there. Because my concern is if we're elected, we were sworn in, we have authority, regulations, rules, Code of Virginia, Constitution that details what we should be doing. Did you have I want to make sure I hear what you said. Yes, sir.
I'm just saying, if that's the case, then we're saying we're gonna stand where we are, and you say you're gonna stand where you are, we're at an impasse.
No, what I'm saying is, it's not about what you say or what I say. We do not have clarity about what the law says.
I think we do.
Uh,
We think we do.
but here's where I'll push back. There's no way you can have clarity when the lawyer says they didn't even talk about it.
No, he explained it to us.
Did you say that you all did not have that intentional? And it's okay. It's okay if you did not have that intentional conversation. And let me tell you why. Because we should not have put our lawyers in a position to have a premature conversation about an MOU that we did not have, especially when we saw that there were so many ideas still floating around. So I go back to my question. Did you have an intentional conversation with Stacy to clarify our concern about agreeing to something that strips us of our constitutional Code of Virginia legal right and authority?
So we don't agree with that, though. See, that's your
The
statement.
question
We don't agree
was,
with that.
did they have a conversation? It doesn't matter if you agree or not. My
But that's
question
not right.
is, respectfully,
That's
did
it.
they
We need
talk
to
about
wrap.
it?
Yeah. So
We need to wrap it up.
yeah, I think the problem
It's
is
okay, Mr. Underwood. I'm simply asking if they spoke about it. We're trying to figure out, we have all this agreement. There's so much agreement.
I don't
And
think so.
that is the one issue that, with all due respect, is why we have lawyers. My question is, did the lawyers talk about it? I don't want this to turn into something negative. It's so good.
It's already
Let's
there.
get well, I'm not in that place with you.
I'm not.
I'm trying to
saying
get
It's
clarity.
already something negative.
Did you? It doesn't have to be.
Ask the citizens of the county. It's
It doesn't-
already negative.
Well, if they're listening, citizens of the county,
They're listening.
sir, did you have the intentional conversation with the lawyer where there is agreement and clarity about the law?
so.
Earlier you said no. Is that?
Well, yeah, let me clarify. So Ms. Haney and I had one long conversation about the MOU. It was never raised that there is a constitutional or statutory concern on the part of the school board about this proposal. So the first time we learned that you thought the Code of Virginia prohibited this was in your December 15th letter.
December 15th.
Yeah, so I have not talked to Ms. Haney since December 15th. That's when we learned that you thought, when we got your red line back, there were no comments in it that said it was prohibited. It just changed it. And so we read that to say, well, they want to do it differently, not that they think it's impermissible.
Is the doing different that we proposed aligned with the traditional way that this is done under the code as it is interpreted?
I mean,
is the question.
I think and that gets us back to somebody's turn of phrase, which is there are two legal ways to get to California.
Well, I think there's a point of clarity here because you continue to use the word prohibited. Never once did I hear our school board state that we believe their request to supervise the construction is prohibited. They have every right to give up their Code of Virginia rights to the supervisors. Our attorney has advised against that.
That's a different statement.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
So-
right. It's a different story. Our
Which is the
attorney
question
has
that
had
I'm
lengthy conversation with our board.
I think that's the
And
action.
it's not that it's prohibited,
Yeah.
it's not legally recommended. So we understand we can give up, the board can give up their constitutional right through the Code of Virginia.
Did she show?
And so it sounds like to me that,
So that's a definite difference. There's a great distinction there.
I guess what and again, maybe it's just language, but I don't think if you're not talking about a prohibition, you're not talking about something that can't be done,
Right.
then the necessary implication is it is allowed. You can, so everyone agrees
Right.
you can do it this way.
Sure.
And so then we're just back to
Do you
a
want to?
business decision. Is
Do
that
you
do
want
we
to?
I
want
don't
to or
think that I
not?
have that understanding. And I want to be sensitive to the time. So my suggestion is, if both boards would agree, I think the lawyers need to get back together and be very clear about what can and what can't. And that gives us a starting point to then come back to the table and say, here's what we can and can't do. Here are all the things that we agree about. Now let's figure out a path to move forward. And then we still keep the forward momentum. It's still positive, but that is the crux that we've got to
Because
come
we're not
to.
going to get promoted in any of this.
Right, yeah, no, absolutely. And I know we're very pressed for time, but the second part of the agenda is our request for use of fiscal year 2025 school reversion funds for purchase of learning buildings at Lewis and Clark Elementary School, which seems to be a full circle moment. So I know, once again, we're pressed for time, but this request is not only vitally important, but also extremely time sensitive, based on the work that needs to be done at Lewis and Clark if we are going to be in a position to purchase and install learning cottages for the purpose of addressing the critical over capacity needs of the school.
In
So
time for when?
the upcoming
For the
school
new
year.
school year.
For August?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes, absolutely.
Thank
You
And
have the reversion funds to purchase them, correct?
We have an unaudited fiscal year, so the audit has been delayed, which you're keenly aware of. But we have a historical pattern. I think Marcia may actually have, Ms. Stevens has that record with her, if that's something you're interested in receiving, of our accuracy in documenting what we believe our reversion monies will be. And we have stated to our board, which they have approved through a motion, the request to you to gain access to those. And I believe it was a little over 800,000 that we proposed, but in discussion with the interim treasurer, she noted that there was money that was received by the treasurer's office, but not accounted for on the books. So it's about $120 some thousand. I'm sorry? 150,000 more. So whatever we estimated now has an additional 150,000 now that the interim treasurer has verified that that money is indeed there.
What was
So
that
we
original
believe-
number? 860?
It was, the one,
847 was the
847.
original.
right. And
So
we
we're
think that
talking a
that's
million now.
correct,
Yeah, a million.
correct.
Yes.
What you
So-
put it in the-
Madam Chair, Nancy,
No,
can I ask,
sir.
Mr. Cully a
Yes,
question?
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Cully, what does the Code of Virginia say with regard to year-end unexpended funds?
It returns to the county. You'd have to reappropriate that funds for, whatever.
So the code says the money goes back to the county.
Right, we've got it.
We're willing to go past what the code says to help the schools. Anybody else willing to do that? If the money comes back to the county, so we just ask for the same in turn.
Dr.
Is it
Calder,
have a good conversation?
Yes, sir.
you mentioned something that caught my attention and probably 10 minutes ago now.
Okay,
Um,
see if I can remember.
yeah, you mentioned that in order to perform the additions at Bowling Green, that the trails would have to be removed
I thought that
first.
was.
It would be my
My
understanding that the
understanding is that they
breakout
were
wall area,
separate.
we would have to have a perimeter for construction, and that would impede the ability to use the villas. But I can turn to Chris Caldwell to talk about the impact that the breakout wall project would have upon the
May I
building.
suggest that you two speak together with that question,
Yeah.
because we don't have time.
Mr. Thomas, I would also,
Sure, we can
I
put it
agree
in
with you
writing.
100% with what you're saying. I would like to see us in the spirit of MOUs. If we could get an MOU that states that reversion funds every year would come back to the school for one-time purposes, we would love to have that talk with you as well.
This
Going above
time-
and beyond what the code offers in the
What-
spirit of cooperation.
What Dr. Rollins failed to mention in that what happened in the board meeting session was I stood up and said, I'm gonna extend the olive branch and vote for you to do this. I'm not gonna be first this time. Okay?
Okay.
But I will keep my word, but I'm just not gonna be first this time.
Sounds like we got a lot to
You
talk
do
about in
have
the
the
future.
Lewis and Clark presentation. It does have an outline of the timeline. There are infrastructure needs at Lewis and Clark that are more time sensitive that would need to be done prior to the villas being delivered and installed, which wasn't a scenario that was present in the
Well,
same
we're gonna have-
fashion at Bowling
Right,
Green.
and that's
So-
why it's vital that we broach this issue tonight based on the timeline.
We're gonna have to add it to our agenda.
Absolutely. We didn't expect a vote
Sure.
today. We didn't expect a vote today.
And we can always schedule another meeting and hash things out again. But
Motion
right
to
now, we
adjourn,
have a
Madam Chair.
motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
School
Motion
board
to
adjourned.
adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
There you go, I got you.
Thank you.